All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Daryl O'Quinn. I'm chair of the Education Committee. Today is November 15th. We have Clinton Woods, and I imagine or someone from the office may be joining shortly. But in the meantime, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes of the November 16th Education Committee. We have a motion to entertain those minutes as written. We'll do that now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Have had an opportunity to review the minutes at this time. Move approval.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, those minutes are passed, and we will move on to our items of business. Today we're going to have an update with Dr. Mark Sullivan, Superintendent of Birmingham City Schools, and members of his team, Dr. Jermaine Dawson, and who's the academic officer, and Ms. Cheryl Stewart, who is the communications executive director. Dr. Sullivan, thank you for joining us. You have the floor.
Well, let me first start off by saying thank you for giving us this opportunity. And I want to say thank you to all the counselors who are on the call, as well as others who are listening via WebEx. As you know, we started the school year off in a virtual environment based on the number of cases that we saw in our local community. We saw a decrease in cases around the fall, and we brought our students back in a blended model, but we did see an increase right after Thanksgiving and the SEC championship game. We began to see an increase, and we went back to a virtual model. We looked at coming back in February, but however, after the national championship game, after New Year's Eve, I think the positivity rate in Jefferson County had risen to around 23%. And so we decided to stay within that virtual model. But I think today what we want to do is share what that means, what virtual learning is, and what it is not, and what it looks like in Birmingham. And so to do that, I have my academic officer, who is Dr. Jermaine Dawson, and he's going to give a short presentation around what virtual learning is. So Dr. Dawson, with that said, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Is there? Okay, thank you. I see the ability to be able to share my screen. And I am going to share with you, as Dr. Sullivan has stated and asked of me to do, is to share with you an update of what virtual learning looks like in Birmingham City Schools. So with that being said, once we started out at the beginning of the year, as Dr. Sullivan has already spoken to, we wanted to make sure that whichever way he and the board decided at their pleasure for us to go based off the count, that we will have a plan in place. And so we quickly poured together teams of people within the district, different teams, cross-functional teams, to be able to work around the three basic big buckets that the state had outlined, from academics and technology to operations, and then also to wellness. And then we added a fourth one in Birmingham, which is a catch-all, a wraparound, which was district leadership supports. And so each of those teams were led by a particular leader, and their primary focus was to be able to look at from our reopening of schools plan from the lens of face-to-face, remote, or blended, depending on where we are in for that particular area. For an example, if I were over curriculum and instruction, the sub-team that I was leading, we looked at what would curriculum and instruction look like and all of the facets of that if we were face-to-face, if the superintendent decided that we would be remote, or if we were blended. And Dr. Sullivan made it very clear that we would be guided by the science. And so based off that expectation from our superintendent, we decided that face-to-face would model the alignment with the Jefferson County Health Department and the Alabama Health Department around the codes of where students would be. So if the spread was low, then the decision would swing more toward face-to-face. If the spread community COVID spread was very high or high, then we would be more in remote as we are right now. And if that COVID spread seemed to be kind of in the middle or more moderate, we would take more of a blended approach, which is what Dr. Sullivan alluded to back in our time in November. So far, we've been able to be stabilized with using our remote plan, and we've had a short period where we were able to implement the blended version of our plan. And so basically, we shared this information with all district staff, also with our parents. Dr. Sullivan had a host and a number of parent informational sessions and web sessions with parents to engage them to answer any questions that they may have, so that he could outline for parents what each of these phases would look like. And we're happy to report that in Birmingham, we have very minimum disruptions because of the plan that the team put together. We're able to vacillate in and out of each one of these plans because of the very nature and detail. This full document of our Opening the Schools Guide is about a 25, 30 page document that clearly lays out in every single department, in every single area, from nutrition, from transportation, for student supports, for leadership, for finance. Every area that you can think of as it relates to school operation, we have it within our Opening of Schools plan, and that has been our guiding document. So when we look at how that we lay out the schedule for instruction as it relates to that, we had a version of it, of a plan in the beginning, and then we morphed into this plan where our students will have full day instruction on synchronous instruction, where they are at, that means that they're having face-to-face engagement with their teachers through technology. And we're happy to report that our superintendent and our school board in Birmingham City Schools made a decision that many districts did not do, but happy to report that Birmingham and our superintendent did, and our board, to ensure that every single student pre-K through 12 had a learning device. And so that was a way to help minimize any disruption in students' learning. And that way teachers could be able to provide that culturally responsive teaching and instruction for our students. And inside of that instruction, we also embedded social emotional learning that is threaded throughout of our daily schedule for all of our students, so that we're ensuring that we are addressing the needs of the whole child. So in our schedule, we're following a full day schedule. We open the day K through 12 or pre-K through 12 with social emotional learning. Our teachers receive extensive professional development around the implementation of that. And then the students would then flow through their schedule in their regular core classes. There is a lunch break that's across the district, so that if older siblings in high school or middle schools can be able to take their younger siblings to the nearest school and be able to receive their lunches for that day. And then they're able to come back in the afternoon to continue with their core and their unified arts. Yes, we're also providing full band classes remotely. We're offering PE remotely, so the instruction is not missing a beat for our students. And so we're very excited about that. And then the other piece, and that happens on Monday and Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. But on Wednesdays, we understand, and research tells us, that we don't want to have our students in front of computers 24/7. And so this is our way to have our students to take ownership of their own learning, to give that student choice, and to give them ownership, that student agency, where they are taking ownership of their learning. And so that happens on asynchronous days or asynchronous Wednesdays, where students become the owners of their work independently. And while the students are working independently, the district is doing some robust trainings that I will share with you through professional development that we're doing for our teachers each and every week. So what is synchronous learning? As I stated earlier, is that live instruction, that online instruction, where students are having that interaction for teachers. Teachers are modeling lessons and breaking students up into small groups, if you will, into breakout rooms or small groups with the teacher. And then that asynchronous, as I stated earlier, is where the students are learning independently, utilizing the district's instructional learning software platforms and programs. And that happens each and every Wednesday. So this virtual learning curriculum and these resources, it has been revised. All the curriculum guides were revised to include digital resources for all of our students around the critical standards to make sure that we are honing in on those standards that can be threaded throughout all of the standards for the years, the one that carry the most weight and that could really help our students to minimize the greatest amount of loss and additional lessons supporting that learning. We also identify all digital resources, and we've added those to our students and our teachers' devices, and I'm going to share a little bit about that in a second. And then we provided digital resource trainings for our teachers on all core curriculum materials and for everyday grade levels and for their learning. So we've infused that with our digital resources from Journeys and iReady, McGraw-Hill, Savage, Springboard, and HMH. To add to that, we use Zoom as our platform for our students to engage with our teachers. As I shared with you earlier, we have that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday live instruction with our teachers. But please make no mistake about it. Even on Wednesdays, we have set up office hours for teachers to be able to have those one-on-one meetings with students, and that is bookends on the Wednesday mornings and at the end of the day. So when they come in on Wednesday, the first hour of the day is a bookend for teachers to be able to get on Zoom, to interact with students one-on-one, to have those individual conferences with students, and also to share and talk with parents. And that also happens at the end of the day. But in our traditional synchronous instruction, this is the way that our students and teachers are able to see each other and sign on and to engage. And in order for them to be able to get onto the platform to engage with synchronous instruction, we use Clever. Clever is our single sign-on platform. This is a way to ensure that when our students log in, there's a way that we're able to protect our students and protect their privacy and their information. And so the students are required to sign in through our Clever system, and every app that we use in our technological marketplace, if you will, as you see down here in the right side of the screen, are all there for our students to be able to click of a button to be able to engage with all of those software. And then Schoology, once they log into our single sign-on system, they then go into Schoology, and Schoology is our learning management platform. This is the place where it's housed for all of our teachers to place assignments, for students to get their course syllabus, for students to upload their assignments, for teachers to give grades. All of that is there for our students and for teachers to be able to do breakouts with students to engage with them as well if they don't decide they don't want to do it through Zoom, and they can now go through the learning management platform of Schoology to be able to do that. And then as an extra layer of support for our students and for our teachers, we have these Google Suite opportunities and platforms that our students and teachers can engage with to be able to share documents, to upload activities, to put their presentations. We're doing a lot of inquiry-based learning for our students in this remote learning environment. They won't always have to do traditional learning through, quizzes and tests, and there are some of that, but there's also for students to really take an opportunity to do some more engaging activities to keep them abreast and to keep them engaged in what the teachers are teaching in the classroom. And we're able to do that successfully and have been doing that successfully through Google Suites. So let's talk about our virtual learning monitoring planning, because we know that with anything that you do, Dr. Sullivan makes it very clear that we have to make sure that we inspect what we expect. And so we have mechanism and tools in place to be able to monitor the implementation of what is actually happening in the classrooms every day. We, on the administrative side, being the assistant principals, the principals, and district personnel, can go into any Zoom link at any given time. We have that list, and we can just pop into the classroom without even being invited to be able to see what's actually taking place in those classrooms. Our administrators are actually doing that at the school levels each and every day. They are conducting daily walkthroughs and formal observations in classrooms to observe instruction and to give that timely feedback and support to teachers. And then teachers are also using these platforms to meet virtually in their professional learning communities, to be able to plan instruction, to review student data and student work samples, and to be able to design interventions based off what their data and student work is showing, to be able to ensure that they close the learning gaps for students. And then our students are able to be assessed formally and informally to measure their impact. And all of these are the ways that we're measuring the impact of the instruction in our classrooms. So let's take a focus, if we will, and let's focus in on just our learning supports for students for a minute. We know that this is a very critical time for our students. And so Dr. Sullivan has made it very clear that we want to make sure that we provide the right types of supports for our students, not just academically, but we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the whole child. And so, as I talked about earlier, and I won't do it here again, is that social emotional learning curriculum that we've embedded for all of our students. We have our counselors pushing in and providing counseling supports for our students based off teacher recommendations, student needs, parents' recommendations. We also have a plethora of mental health counseling that have for our identified tier 2 or our tier 3 tertiary student levels, that mental health piece to ensure that we're pushing those students back through the MTSS, the all, some, and few, back into the mainstream classroom. And so we have those mental health counselors that are providing ongoing support for our students. We also have the positive intervention, behavior intervention, or what we affectionately call PBIS supports that are still happening for all of our students. There are attendance and wraparound supports for students who may not have been engaged. That department, the teachers are making recommendations to our attendance team, who's then following up with parents and then making recommendations to get those students reacclimated to the classroom setting. We have also excited that we've had a plethora of FACE parent trainings with our FACE department, which is our family and community engagement team, to help our parents to understand what virtual learning look like, to help them to know the vocabulary, the vernacular, and how to be able to manipulate and use the tools that their children are using each and every day. And we've gotten raving reviews from our parents from these sessions that we hold both in the morning and also after work hours, to ensure that we have a way to engage all of our parents. Also, our parents, students, and teachers, as I stated earlier, having those office hours at the bookends of each Wednesday for parents to engage with their teachers, their child's teacher, to ensure that they're staying abreast of how that child is, their children are doing. We also have student personalized learning that's happening with our iReady platform and others like Savvis, to ensure that our students are being able to take ownership and student agency in their work. So they are monitoring at their own pace to be able to move them while it's being monitored by the teachers who are instructing them every day. And we're happy to say that although that we cannot do real field trips, we're happy that we're able to still provide virtual field trips that are happening in our classrooms each and every day for our students. And then this is how we are providing that support for our teachers. We've developed and presented sessions for our teachers on curriculum materials, learning recovery, and remote instruction to make sure they understand how to use these tools and resources, to blend it with the curriculum resources, to be able to provide that just-in-time instruction for our students. So here's just a list, a small list of some of the sessions that we have provided for our teachers. We've provided sessions on teaching virtually in physical education. We've used the Myon training, where our students have access to online reading materials and books. And we're happy to report that we've had over 59,000 reports of students who've read and finished reading books on Myon technology online platform. We provided resources on ESL strategies to support our ELL population of students, on Elevation, on Zoom tools, and then all of our curriculum resources of how to teach those core content areas of ELA, math, science, and social studies in a remote learning environment. And we are happy to report that we have provided, since September of 2020 to February 2021, over 250 professional development learning opportunities for our teachers and administrators. And it is truly making a difference for our students. So with that, we just want to say thank you for indulging us to share with you what we've been doing with the vision that Dr. Sullivan has set for us in Birmingham City Schools around virtual learning. And we're entertaining any questions that you may have at this time. Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dawson. And as you can see, we have been working very diligently around how we can ensure that our virtual learning or remote learning platform, remote learning process is seamless and that it is student and teacher friendly. So at this time, if there are any questions, counselors, we will take those and at this time.
Yes, sir. So the first question that comes to mind is regarding assessments. I imagine that in the current environment, one has to just assume that performance would be different, just because circumstances have been different. But how are assessments, proceeding currently? We understand that, since students are working remotely, those assessments can't occur as they have in a traditional, format.
So, Dr. Sullivan, you want me to start?
Go ahead, Dr. Dawson.
Okay, so yes, assessments are actually taking place. We have been very successful in providing, although we have been in a remote setting, to provide our benchmarks for all of our students K-12 at the beginning of the year. We are actually in our second phase of that assessment piece, using our assessments for our students to benchmark to see how they are doing. And then this second assessment piece, we'll be able to connect that with the first one to see if there's been any growth over time for our students. So that is our formative assessment types of pieces. But let's also talk informally. When each student gets on their platform and they are learning, there's multiple ways that we are able to assess. So when the students get on their individual or personalized pathway with iReady or Savvis, and they're having to learn using those resources, there are many assessments on small amounts of materials that the teacher may have taught or that they're doing on their individualized personal pathway. And that also gives us quick informa data to see if the students are making progress along the way. But we're not just assessing just the instructional pieces, but we're also assessing usage, engagement on the platforms to see how many times students are online. So we are measuring engagement as well as instruction, as well as student growth. We are also looking for misconceptions and areas of deficiency, and teachers are starting to work with students in small groups on asynchronous days or afternoon sessions where they're meeting with students through our MTSS process to close and mitigate and address some of those learning gaps. But then also, we are still, will be taking the state assessment. We actually have state assessments, accountability, high stakes assessments going on right now, where our high school students have already started that. We've had hundreds of students to report to their high schools and using safety measures, the CDC guidelines and the Jefferson County health restrictions and expectations, and it's been very successful. We haven't had any known cases from these administrations where the students have been brought to the building and they've taken those state required assessments. And we are in the process now of planning and rolling out our plan to be able to do as such with the Alabama, the ACT assessment that's coming up in the next few weeks.
And we don't want to say that the assessments have been very rosy, because to be honest with you, we're in a pandemic, and what we're seeing is that our students are not performing at a level that they would do in a face-to-face environment. And that's just not localized here in Birmingham, but that's across the nation. And so in addition to, assessing our students, seeing where they are, we're also making plans for what school looks like for next year and how we can bridge some of those coronavirus gaps that our kids are clearly going to have. And if we don't really put a plan in place now, we may see the effects of this year and last year on these students for many, many, many years to come. And so we are using this data to help us as we begin to plan for what school looks like once we get our teachers vaccinated and students start to get vaccinated for next school year.
Yeah, so, one of the things that came to mind was potentially altering the school year. Has there been any conversation about extending the school year or starting the 2021-2022 school year earlier than usual?
So, Counselor, you must not be paying attention to Facebook because we have we've sent a proposal out to our community. There is a survey that's out now, and I am recommending to the board at our next board meeting, and which we're going to talk about at our work session, is to do a modified calendar. And what that looks like is we start school in July. And the reason why we want to do that is because we recognize that there are huge, enormous gaps based on what we're seeing from the data, and that we have to get students back in school as quickly as we possibly can so that we can start addressing some of those deficits that we see. So our goal is to recommend to the board, but we're also getting feedback from the community, from our teachers around what their thoughts are so that we can, in one step, bring students back early, but also to have interventions and supports in place for students who are falling behind. So that's just one in many different approaches that we're going to look at trying to ensure that our students have what they need beginning in the next school year.
Okay. I want to give Councilor Woods an opportunity to ask any questions that he may have. I do have a couple more, but I want to jump in and let him offer any questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Had a few questions. Definitely appreciate you guys making yourselves available today. But one, you kind of had to stand up a lot of digital infrastructure in a pretty short amount of time. Is there any plans or thoughts about how to continue using that into the future?
That is a very good question, Councilor Woods, and you're right. Last year, when we shut down school in March, we had to make copy packets to send home to parents because many of our students either did not have a device so that we can do digital learning. Many of our students did not have internet. So very quickly, we invested in buying a device for every student in the city of Birmingham, as well as every student who indicated, which was about 25% of our students didn't have connectivity. So we bought hotspots for students, but that was just part of it. Then we had to educate our entire teaching force on teaching within this virtual environment. So all summer long, we were putting plans together and professional development for our teachers. And that's part of the reason why we have that Wednesday, so that we can provide additional professional development for our students and for our teachers. You're right, we've invested heavily in this. So our goal is every year we're doing what they call a refresh. So that means that devices that are old and becoming off warranty, we're replacing those. We are all in now into this virtual environment because one of the things that coronavirus has done, it has really taught us to be flexible and to be nimble in this environment. And the only way we can do that is the reliance on technology. One of the things I talked about, and you're probably going to see in the next couple of days, as it rains, as it freezes, as it snows, the snow day may be gone forever. We just simply transform from being an in-person day to being a virtual day where students work on their computers. So yes, to answer your question, it has changed the way we do things, and we are not ever going back to the environment where technology is not integral as a part of education.
Yeah, it's a really good tool, and I could just envision, if a kid is struggling in, say, math, being able to after hours just log in and get some help. So that's a cool thing. One thing also is, have you seen an impact that the digital learning has had on parental involvement at all? Has there been a benefit or a drawback just with parents?
So one of the things that we have seen is that there's a huge appreciation for the work that teachers do among parents because parents are seeing firsthand the work that teachers do. I would say this, one of our, Dr. Dawson indicated that we're doing parent engagement sessions because one of the things that we found is that not only do we have to provide supports for our students, but we have to provide our support for our parents on how to use devices, how to use the digital platforms, Zoom. And so many of our students are being raised by grandparents. And so they may not necessarily be digital natives. So we had to make a concerted effort in teaching, bringing them along. So I think that that has provided us with more opportunities to engage with our parents. So I think that's a positive from this.
Okay. I'm gonna ask one more. I'll kick it back to the chairman for 3 or 4 more. Then we'll see what comes after that. But I guess a little bit about you hit on this, but kind of seeing like what actual like real world conditions will have to exist for students to go back to school. Is there like a percentage number? Is there a trigger around kind of what would actually put them back into schools?
So we just recently got some guidance from the CDC, and which is very beneficial. And, initially when this pandemic first started, there was very little federal guidance, and so now we've gotten some federal guidance from the CDC around what reopening schools would look like. Also, we are seeing the number of cases in our community go down considerably. I think when we decided to go back in a blended model, we were around 12%. I think it was 11 or 12%, which was down from the 14 to 15% that we had in the summer. We know that in February, at the beginning of February, we were at about 23% in our area, but that number is coming down. So we're actually going to make an announcement over the next couple of weeks of what March might look like. If the numbers continue to go down, that's a very positive sign. With the guidance from the CDC that's around, making sure that kids in lower grades are in pods, that we're able to do social distancing, that we have cleaning protocols in place. That's a positive. That's positive. We have, and we're going to talk about in just a little bit with Cheryl Stewart. We've entered into a partnership with UAB, and they're working to vaccinate not only the community, but they're vaccinating our employees right now. We had over 1,100 employees sign up for their initial vaccination. 300 have already taken the first shot. So over the next couple of weeks, we foresee that that's going to ramp up considerably, which also gives us more latitude to start bringing students back to school. So if everybody continues to, not just in the schools, but in the community, practice social distancing, wear their masks, make sure they're doing proper hand washing, that helps affect how we in the schools can operate. As you know, we've lost in this pandemic, we've lost 4 employees to COVID-19. We've lost a student to COVID-19. And so, we are very mindful and aware of the devastation that this disease can have. And so we want to have school. But in order for us to do that, we know that there are a lot of things that the community have to do to ensure that the spread goes down and that we get people vaccinated and we get back in the buildings.
Thank you. I'll pass it and let a counselor get a few questions in, or if you want to go to the next item.
All right. So I want to acknowledge that Council President is on the call and happy to take any questions that she may have. But before we do that, I wanted to ask, so it's been reported that at least 5,000 students in Alabama have not been signing in to virtual learning. And I was wondering if you could provide us some insight as to what that looks like on the district level. What does our attendance look like currently?
So in Birmingham, what we do is, since we're in this virtual environment, there's not really being absent from school if you're in a virtual environment, but we look at students, as Dr. Dawson indicated, who participate within these virtual sessions. So any child that participates less than 80% of the time, they are referred to our attendance department. We are very, very lucky in Birmingham to have a DA's office that works with us around how we can ensure that students are in school and engaged. And that's through a partnership called Helping Families. So with our Helping Families partnership, along with our attendance people, any student that is less than 80% of the time, they are referred. And so I don't have that exact number, and I can email that to you of the number of students that it applies to, but it is nowhere near 5,000. But I will say this, across the state of Alabama, we are down around 9,000 students who actually enrolled in school this year as compared to last year. Here in Birmingham, we are down about 200 kindergartners. So, you know, Alabama doesn't require kindergarten as part of the law. However, first grade is required. So we project, not just in Birmingham, but across the state, that there's going to be an influx of first graders that are coming in who haven't been to kindergarten or pre-K that we are going to have to immediately start working with, because we have a third grade literacy assessment that basically says if students are not reading on grade level, they will be retained. So that's even more reason why we need to get kids back in school and back engaged very quickly. But we can get you the number of students who we identify as not engaging less than 80% of the time.
Yes, sir. Actually, that's an excellent segue. We had a question that came in from one of the our audience members that's viewing, and she's wondering about the Alabama Literacy Act and the implementation. Is there any conversation that around, due to the current circumstances, that we're going to be on any kind of altered timeline whatsoever?
So there's a bill, and I don't know where it is now in the House or the Senate, but there's a bill that's being proposed to delay the implementation of the Literacy Act. Right now, you know, they are full steam ahead with the Literacy Act. What we have to do as a school system, we have to prepare our students. We have to ensure that our kids are reading on grade level. I personally do not think it's fair that children, our youngest, you know, citizens, will bear the full brunt of this having to retain when the disease, the processes that happen as a result of it were not their fault. But, you know, these kids who will have to take that test for the first time are in second grade now. Remember, last year we shut school down in the spring of last year. We started virtually this year, so they're in second grade now. And then next year they're going to be required to pass a literacy test. It doesn't, in my mind, seem fair. I would hope that individuals down at the State House will say, hey, let's delay this for a year so that we can make sure that our students have what they need and they have the interventions and supports so that they can be successful moving forward in school and not being punished for things that had nothing to do with them.
Yeah. So last question for me is longer term issue, and this would, I would assume, require some federal support. But one of the things that, you know, has been discussed in terms of returning kids to the classroom is actually preparing our school buildings such that the infrastructure is accommodating, you know, and all of our systems are performing at a level that helps protect them from spread of contagion. So, of course, a very critical piece of infrastructure in any school building is the ventilation system. And that's something that, you know, is being recommended be upgraded as districts consider bringing their kids back to the classroom. Is that something that Birmingham City Schools is looking at? I know we have a lot of newer school buildings, but you know, are we considering adding any infrastructure to improve ventilation systems in our school buildings?
That's a good question. When we first initially started bringing students back in within a blended model, one of the things that we did over the summer and the beginning of the fall was to go in and put different filters in our schools. So all of our heating and air conditioning systems had upgraded filtering systems. As part of this second round of CARES money that's coming from the federal government, and we've gotten an idea of what the allocation is, it speaks to what you just said, improving ventilation systems. So we had already started the process of upgrading heating and air in our schools, and this is going to just accelerate that process. So to answer your question is yes, we are. That is top of our mind, you know, trying to ensure that our kids have what they need and have, not just for students, but also the employees. Because what we're seeing is we're seeing more spread among the adults than we're seeing among the students. So if you see, so the buildings where we have our adults, building where we have our schools, we have to upgrade our heating and air conditioning systems.
All right, excellent. Counselor Alexander is on the line, and I know she has one question that she would like to ask. Counselor Alexander, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Counselor Quinn, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Woods and Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Dawson. Thank you for presenting this information. Most of the questions
Virtually.
have been asked already, but I do want to go back to, you said that you would be bringing a recommendation to the board about next year's school's calendar and how that looks. A lot of conversation has come up, a lot of social media posts regarding the actual number of days that students will be in the classroom. Can you just verify for us this number of all year school? Just what does that look like for us as far as the instruction?
Absolutely. So the students will not be in school any more days. They still have 180 days, and the teachers will still have 187 days. It's just how you divide the breaks. So right now, during the summer, you have 60 days off from instruction for students. Research tells us students, particularly students who come from environments where they need additional support, those long days without instruction can be very difficult to make up. That's what they call summer slide. And every year we talk about summer slide, but we really haven't addressed it in any kind of meaningful way. One of the things that we're addressing now is summer slide and cold slide. So we're trying to reduce the number of days that students have between breaks. So instead of them having 60 days off during the summer, they'll have 30 days. Students will go to school for 9 weeks. We'll have a 3-week period where students are off because they still have the still 180 days. Within those 3 weeks, we have interventions, we have remediation, we have enrichment scheduled for students to come in. So if parents want their students to continue doing those intercession days, then there are activities for those students to advance them, to enrich them, and to remediate them. So technically, they'll have more days of instruction than they would normally do, but they will only have 180 days that are required under the current system of 180 days for instruction for students. So it's not any more days for teachers, not any more days for students, unless they engage in remediation, enrichment, or acceleration during those intercession periods.
Thank you very much. And I just have one other final question. Both of the counselors that are on here today, they've already taken the lead, and I know they've given a lot of support to the schools in their particular district. So as counselors, let me just ask you, when it comes to discretionary funding, where would you need most need? Would that be in Wi-Fi, computer equipment, or instructional curriculum? What would be the best way that we can support you?
So I would say this, and we mentioned this earlier, technology is going to be a part of the way schools are being addressed moving forward. One of the biggest things that this COVID-19 has done is shone a light on the huge digital divide between those students who have and those students who have not. As far as devices are concerned, I think we are good with devices. I think one of the things that I would hope that we as a community do is to provide free access to internet for everybody. I think if we can make a concerted effort, like it's like a utility. If this is how we're going to do school moving forward, then it is not fair for us to have students, because of their financial situation, to basically be priced out of an education because they don't have internet or because they don't have high speed internet or connectivity. So if we as a community have one thing that we could all push towards, I would think universal Wi-Fi would be one of those things.
Well, thank you. We'll certainly make that a topic at one of our next utility committee meetings. Thank you, Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
To you, Dr. Quinn.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Alexander. I appreciate you asking that question. That's very important. So next on our agenda, Dr. Sullivan, we wanted to have Ms. Cheryl Stewart talk about the Parker High School vaccination site.
Absolutely, and we have Ms. Stewart with us. She's helped coordinate that process. We are very proud of this because Parker High School has been around for 120 years serving the community. And this is, I don't mean to steal her thunder, but this is another way that we could do that. And so Ms. Stewart, I'm gonna turn it over to you and you talk about this wonderful opportunity for our students, our parents, our community, and our teachers. Gerald, are you on?
Uh, okay, now I'm unmuted. Thank you so very much, Councilor Quinn, Councilor Alexander, and my councilman, Councilor Woods. It's my pleasure to just give you an update. Actually, Dr. Sullivan has told you many of the important facts, but we know that Parker High School is historic. Back in 1900, Reverend William Pettiford of 16th Street Baptist Church impressed upon the Birmingham city leaders to start a high school for Negroes in Birmingham, Alabama, to serve the community and to educate students. And so we are just really proud of this opportunity to partner with UAB to offer service to the community. Now, how has that looked? First of all, there was, as I said, a collaborative effort. We had several meetings in advance of the launch last week that included some very important developments for both our community and our schools. About 115 staff members from the schools and Parker High School were able to go through the test run of the setup on last Wednesday. And so that was very significant because we know that there are several educators already at Parker who have received their first dose. In addition to that, UAB has partnered with us to provide vaccinations for our faculty and staff. As Dr. Sullivan stated earlier, we have had about 1,100 staff members to respond to the emails from UAB to arrange their vaccinations, and about 340 have received their first dose. That was as of Friday. Several, I believe, were receiving them over the weekend and even today. So that is moving forward. Now, there are some things that have had to change because of the weather. We can't control that. At the Parker site, they delayed or postponed that activity there today because of the impending bad weather. So they have not made an announcement as of yet about tomorrow's schedule. Tomorrow, the Tuesday schedule was supposed to start at 9 a.m. and conclude at 3 p.m. Initially, when we started with the first days on Thursday and Friday, the vaccinations were offered from 9 to noon. Now, they prefer appointments. However, at this site, in order to be more accessible to the community, they are taking a limited number of walk-ups and drive-ups from individuals who do not have an appointment. And I'll tell you why that's important. Last Tuesday, I was out with some of the logistics team doing a walkthrough of our setup. And an elderly couple drove up and asked me a question: what do I do to get my vaccine later this week? And I tried to explain to them how to go on the computer and register for the vaccination. And the guy looked at me and said, "Whose computer?" So this was clearly, these were clearly some people who were in that group of people who are potentially vulnerable, but they did not have a computer. They did have access to Parker. So for that reason, I believe the walk-ups and the drive-ups are being accepted from that community. The response has been great so far. If you go down Abraham Woods Jr. Drive, you will see the line wrapped around, but it is moving constantly. It's moving. They're doing a very good job of serving the individuals. There are 2 drive-up lanes. There are 2 walk-up lanes, weather permitting. So that's where we are right now. And so far, it's been going good. It's been going as planned. There had been some concerns throughout the community that this would not be well received, or there were some people who had reservations about the vaccine. Well, what we are seeing is an overwhelming number of people in the community who are comfortable with coming to Parker because it's there in the community, and they're pleased with the access they are getting from UAB. UAB has really been very much at the forefront and tried to make certain that everything is being taken care of for the individuals who are coming in. Thank you. That's all I have.
Great. I'm sure that you described the cars wrapping around the block there. Please feel free to reach out to us or the mayor's office if you need any additional support from the Birmingham Police Department to assist in guiding traffic.
Yes, the Birmingham Police Department, as well as the Birmingham City School Security Team, has been working on each day so far to help with traffic flow and provide security.
Yeah, one additional thing that I'm hearing about is, I believe Councilor Tyson, Commissioner Tyson with the Jefferson County Commission is proposing a plan to utilize some of our transportation services in order to provide rides to Parker High School. That's something that we're reaching out to her office to inquire about. But just a heads up, Councilor Woods and Councilor Alexander, that we're seeking to learn more about that. I believe she's been in communication with the Community Foundation, Jefferson County Department of Health regarding making that happen. But we definitely want anyone who is eligible and wants to receive the vaccine, we want to make it possible for them to get to that location. We know that transportation is often a barrier for a lot of folks.
Yes. I have seen Commissioner Tyson's plan. Not only does she work, not only does she propose working with the groups that you outlined, she has also contacted the Birmingham Housing Authority and is looking to work with some area churches as well with that transportation piece. And she's moving forward pretty quickly with those plans.
Excellent, excellent. Councilor Woods or Councilor Alexander, do you have any questions for Ms. Stewart?
Really good to see you today.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Dawson, Ms. Stewart, thank you all for providing us this information today. It's been extremely informative. Very much appreciate it. We will be looking into your suggestion, Dr. Sullivan, of supporting Wi-Fi access for our students. And you know, hang in there. I know this past academic year is, you know, continuing to be a challenge. We want to encourage all of our students to weather through these obstacles and do their best. This is, you know, critical time of their lives that's going to set the trajectory for what's to come for them. So it's definitely, you know, important that they attend to their learnings. But with that, thank you again so very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, and we really enjoy being here. And so if you need any other updates, please let us know and we will come over. Hopefully one day we'll be able to come over to the city council like we used to. But thank you again for allowing us to come before you today.
Dr. Sullivan, I have one point before we close out. Mr. O'Quinn, if you would like, we have a Q&A that we have prepared for parents, and you're certainly welcome to it, that goes through some of the key points in the calendar proposal. We also have a video presentation with Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Chapman walking through that information. So if that would assist you in better understanding what is being proposed, I can share it with you or members of the committee or however you want to receive it.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. We would very much appreciate that information and happy to help you push that out. That does remind me, we had a question earlier about Dr. Dawson's presentation or the opening of the schools plan just generally. Is that something that's available through Birmingham City Schools website?
Yes, it's on our website. It's under, we have a section on our website which speaks to the coronavirus, and it has our opening of school plan. It has all of the videos around how to work through technology. It's a lot of Q&As for parents. So yes, it is on our website.
All right, excellent. Thank you. All right, guys, appreciate it. and have a great day.
All right, thank you. You too.
So next up on our agenda is any new or old business. Do we have any new or old business to discuss?
I don't.
Okay. Well, can we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move adjournment.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes, and therefore we are now adjourned. Thank you very much.